Tom! Hey, Gaston, what's going on, Gaston? How's it going? I heard you had a really bad day today, Gaston. No, I'm not holding any puts. You're crazy. Hell no. I think this is the one night where I'm actually all cash, and it actually feels so good to be cash right now. After having two wild days, first holding Tesla calls, then holding Tesla puts, I think I need a night of good sleep. So I'm just gonna chill back, literally just fall back and relax tonight, and we'll see how this crap show literally goes into tomorrow. Gaston, what are you holding, by the way? Did you buy calls? Did you buy the bottom? Is that what you bought? You bought the dip that keeps dipping? Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. What's going on, Lobo? What's up, Felice? Amazing day. Usually I would come on here and I'd probably say I hope you guys had a great day, but I know some of you really got slaughtered today. Today was really more of a blindsided kind of day. We had that nice little 3 day push. You heard me last night pretty much. BBIG squeeze is back. Are you serious right now, Tom? Okay, that's why Tom's on live here, is because BBIG squeeze. I see why. But you heard me last night. I pretty much was mentioning about how the market had a nice little 3 day recovery. We had that nice little bottom that we put in here from the 10th, and then we literally just ripped since Monday. And it's been an amazing push. I just was not buying into the pretty much the term in this. This was a V-shaped recovery, and you pretty much heard me echo those kind of statements yesterday night when we had that 3 day move. And I'm like, just be cautious about a reversal here because we couldn't. This was not substantial to go into a V-shaped recovery after having the CPI data, after having all these Fed comments. It doesn't feel like it was last year when, if you remember, those of you that's pretty much been through that entire rally for most part of last year, we saw where the market literally just rallied on bad news after bad news. This year definitely feels different. Any bad news that we get this year really feels like it's going to impact the market. This will really be a test for all of pretty much a lot of the new retail traders for that matter. We saw a lot of these new traders that came into the market when the market just literally just went up. You bought a dip, it went up. You bought another dip, it literally went up. Doesn't feel like the case just to start off the year. I think just last week we had like a 5 day red week. It's definitely not feeling the way that bulls want it to start this year. And I do think a lot more pain is pretty much in the future here for the first half of the year, per se. I know that we have the potential rate hike that's rumored to be coming in March. So it's not going to get any better right now. We're likely going to hear some more and more bad news. A lot of the shortages that's going on right around the states. So just keep that in mind. Best thing I could say right now for those of you that really just got slaughtered today or you really just been feeling uncomfortable for most part of this new year, pretty much just keep your position size light. That's the best thing I can say for you. I see people down what 7,000. Some people say probably their worst day today. Don't feel down on yourself. We've all been there at some point in time. But the best thing I can say is pretty much just try to size down your position. Don't try to say, okay, you know what? I lost $1,000 today. I'm literally gonna make it all back up in the next trade, because I guarantee you're setting yourself up for failure. Don't try to do that. Okay? So whatever remaining capital you have after maybe taking a big loss today, try to definitely take a size down on your positions. Work with something in which, all right, if my next trade doesn't work out, I'm able to recapitalize on the next one after that. That's basically the mentality that you want to have. I think today I didn't even do much. I literally sold my puts pretty much through the day, and all I did was pretty much scalp Tesla. And I'm pretty sure most of you heard me talking about Tesla pretty much most of the day. So literally all I did was just scout Tesla on the way down, because I knew that 1100 was a big level. Once I saw that early formation, and I'll get to Tesla's chart, I literally was like, all right, it has to be time where this ends up breaking down at least towards 1050, 1040, and we saw that nice little flush down into the 1030 range. So definitely was a good day for me. But this is why a lot of people make fun. Okay, why is Air Drake always bearish? Is because you have to be able to know when, pretty much when the market reverses, you have to be able to be comfortable with that. I was comfortable with the market reversing, right? We saw the market continuing to push. I was like, all right, fine, I'll take the ride. But once we see the bad data coming, I knew that this coming year was going to be different. It wasn't like every last year when every Thursday was, we got jobless claims, and guess what? We mooned off of all of them. It didn't feel that way this year. And so I'm pretty much training my brain right now is to play both directions. That's really the biggest thing right now. So I got stuck on your Tesla scalps. I didn't really call out my scalps too much, by the way, so I don't know how you ended up doing that, but okay. So, but again, you have to be able to play both directions in this environment. That's the biggest thing that I will say. So hopefully you guys can get that kind of understanding. But if you see a bigger picture here, I had that megaphone action here that we ended right into the end of the year here, and we closed out just kind of just nose diving out of it on January 4th to January 5th. We had that nice little pretty much ride down, and we had that 5 day skid to the downside, and then we ended up retesting. Once we ended up getting that retest, and that's where that pretty much caused the trouble here today, was that we peaked right over the resistance, and we got flushed right back down. So market basically just digested all the news that we had, the PPI data that came out, the jobless claims that came out, the CPI data from yesterday. All of that pretty much was a delayed reaction. Kind of felt like in the sense where we usually get an immediate reaction from the feds, and that's usually the wrong direction. It literally felt that kind of way because we had the CPI data yesterday, but we still pushed. Now today the market's digesting all that news, following the PPI data today and the jobless claims today. It looks like the market's really now starting to digest. All right, it's worse than what we expected, and that's where you hear people now starting to look for the lows here, looking for 452 more or less on the lows. And we'll see if we end up getting down there. We do have that gap to fill here under 456. We do have a nice little gap. So first thing first to me is taking out 461 here, and then reaching the lows here from January 10th, which we end up 456 gap fill, and then we'll be start talking about 452 on SPY. But just know pretty much that there is more pain ahead. That's what you want to be cautious about. And make sure that you continue to keep your size on your positions down. All right. That's pretty much the big message here tonight that I want to give you, especially for those of you that have been feeling uncomfortable to start the new year with how the market is pretty much treating you. All right. Other thing was just pretty much just peeking Tesla. I didn't have too much of a watch list here tonight. As we saw, we didn't have too many alerts go off. So I didn't want to go ahead and put out too many uh, just three tickers. So what I was gonna do is I'll go through the tickers that I pretty much wanted to show, and then I'll get a request from you guys, and we'll look at the daily to see pretty much where we're breaking down, where your next level of support is off of the daily, so that way you get a bigger macro picture of where your stock is. Maybe it's some that you're actually holding right now. All right. But as you see here, I was looking at Tesla. I literally had this drawn out, this trendline support. We had this beautiful wedge that we had from the other night from the 11th. So this is when I actually ended up holding a swing lotto on Tesla calls. We had that nice little gap up. And then I literally just sold it right at open. And then we had a nice little pullback, nice little retrace. We ended up going right into new highs, and that's when I ended up drawing out the trendline resistance. And this is pretty much a very long trendline resistance from the 10th, going into what is this morning, making new highs this morning. So once I saw it start to break down, that was literally when I was like, all right, it's about to start getting pretty much bloody out in the streets. And that's what we saw. We saw that nice little wick. We had it retest right to the prior consolidation levels from where we broke out yesterday. And we saw that nice little flush right there. And what I was pretty much targeting was the highs of where we ended up trying to break out initially from the pennant from the other day. That we couldn't get that breakout. We literally just kept tapping 1067, 1070. I knew that was the range that we were going to end up falling back towards. So 1067, 1070 was that range that I was targeting on the downside initially. But once we started to accelerate, we saw the bounce exactly where I was expecting, that 1068 level. We wigged down to about 1065. We got that beautiful bounce. And once I ended up seeing the market start to accelerate to the downside, that's when I decided to start shorting. Uh, well, I should say more scalping. And I ended up taking a put position once we broke that low here of that 1067. That's when I ended up getting in on puts, and we saw the ride that ended up taking. Scalped it right when it was making a little wedge yet again. So pretty much just playing it off its levels, off the fibs, off of the prior resistance, prior supports. So I was watching that. Overall, I wanted to see us get down to right about here, in which that was a prior, pretty much a prior peak, prior low, if you want to say, right down to that 1024 level. That's what I'll be targeting. Uh, Going into tomorrow, I think that'll be our bounce zone. We'll probably see a little bit of red into the morning, maybe get an early morning bounce, and then if we pretty much flush under that 1022 level, then it's likely gonna get ugly. And I'm sure Tom will be calling for Tesla to like 800 and something, right? So that's what I'll be watching tomorrow, me personally, just because I like the fluidity that Tesla's really giving us, and it's pretty much just so easy to scalp for me. But you do have to find individually what ticker do you find most comfortable, pretty much trading. So I know like Gaston, he was trading Microsoft. Tom was trading Microsoft. Microsoft actually had a beautiful move today to the downside. Literally, and I was not expecting that kind of move. When I actually saw it towards the middle of the day, I was like, wow, that's a huge drop. We had literally a $13 drop, so we see how much that pretty much weighed on the tech sector because Microsoft and Apple really weigh so much on Nasdaq. So that when I saw that downfall, I was like, wow, okay, we see how much that blood is, and we saw it pretty much took out the low from the 10th as well. So we did make a new low. So that's what we will be watching again. I'm sure Gaston and Tom will probably be taking a peek at that to see if there's any maybe zero trade opportunities tomorrow. But that was definitely a huge downside. If I pretty much look at the daily, and I thought I actually had it charted out, I don't. But I know that 318 was very much a key level for Microsoft, and that's what we basically ended up seeing it break down from. So if I put the line, and I'll put it in black here, if you see that's pretty much where you had that breakdown from, right? Is because we started wicking below. We are trying to hold the base back from early December down to late December. We ended up getting the nice push right into the end of the year. We had the nice flush, which pretty much wicked us right down below support, right? So this time we actually had a full body candle literally go right through that support. We wicked it all the way down to about 3 or 4, had the retest, and this is pretty much that massive candle in which it resulted to. So, and I don't even think we really had that size of a candle. I think looking back, I think this is the biggest candle we had was from the beginning of December here, in which from the highs were 332, the low of this candle was 318. So that pretty much relates to the size of the move here today from that $13 drop. And then the other factor is that we also do have a nice little gap fill here below. So that's something to keep in mind as the market continues to decline. Watch this gap fill. All right. That's something to keep an eye on. We'll enter that gap fill below 297, and that'll be something that you want to monitor if the market continues to decline. All right. But right now, I would expect to retrace somewhat of this move here. If I'm looking for prior support, prior resistance in terms of Microsoft, I would anticipate that you're going to move back close enough to about 308, 309, right into this range. 308, 309 would be the level that I would watch for a potential bounce. Doesn't mean that it has to, but 308, 309 would be that move here where you see a potential bounce and then you'll likely get the next leg down. So that'll be the spot that I would hope that you guys pretty much kind of try to remember 308, 309, and then we'll likely see some kind of reversal right back to the downside. So it may be a quick bounce, maybe tomorrow's maybe a relief day of some sort, but overall, big picture wise, you pretty much understand that we're in a defined downtrend right now, right? We would consider this more so or less. We're pretty much entering bear territory, or we have already. But this is going to be a bear market. Granted, the fact that if we continue to make another low here, we're going to make lows that we haven't seen for quite some time. All right. But other than that, I think that's the tickers that I was pretty much looking at. You pretty much heard me early on live. I was trying to distinguish pretty much where the relative strength was, where the weakness was. I saw Shopify really just fall off a cliff, and we know Shopify has really just been punished endlessly. Looking at that chart, we have a nice little descending channel action that we have going on here on Shopify. No, part of me actually thought that this was gonna end up getting back over this 1200 level. I want to say specifically 1213, and we see a nice test to the resistance. Market was not having that. We ended up getting a nice little rejection, a little bit of a 3 bar play down to the downside, and so we can open up range down now towards close enough to that 1000 mark. That's literally what we're flirting with right now. It's at 1064. We can open down to about 1019 tomorrow if the market does continue to exaggerate itself from today's action. So we'll see how this one ends up performing, but I had my eyes on this one early. I should have pulled the trigger. I just didn't because Tesla was just too appealing to me. But this one is definitely one that I know that it's holding a lot of weakness. A lot of traders want to see it back at the 1,000 mark. So we'll see what it ends up doing here tomorrow. That may end up being a 0 day trade for me tomorrow, just because of the fact that I know this is a big mover, and if the market's going to continue to bleed, this is definitely going to take a lot of weight off of that to the downside. So I'll keep an eye on that one. Someone mentioned DWAC. What is DWAC doing? Actually, I haven't looked at it, to be honest with you. Let me take a peek at DWAC. Ouch, that was pretty bad. That was a really bad pullback. And I know that theta wise, that pretty much hurt. But if you're really looking for it, you're looking for this pullback right here, right down towards this 66.24 level. That was your prior peak. A 66.30 would be that level. So you're watching to see if we're gonna hold there. But between this high in the middle here of 66.31, and then also between 65. So 65, 66, that's the level that you're watching to hold. That would be ideal. If it ends up breaking below 65, then you can likely put it to rest and leave it alone as is. All right. It definitely was not having it today. If the market was green, I think you would have got a nice push out of it. Probably made a nice push towards 77, but the market just was not having it. You had a beautiful high though. It hit about 74. So I can't say I would complain. That was also a nice little resistance level also you had from prior, right around that 74-ish level. So I can't really complain about the fact that it hit the 74 and then we regressed. But you want to see it hold that 75, 76, 60. I take it back. 65, 66 level. If we can't hold 65, then you pretty much exit and you leave it be. All right. What is all this noise about BBIG that I'm hearing? I'm hearing a lot of noise about this right now. Is this really up? Is it really looking that good right now? Okay, that was quite a move. This thing is literally a penny stock now. Wow, I did not even realize that. It's really a penny stock right now. That's really how bad they did this. That is insanely crazy. Take a look at something. I mean, it's only up about 11 cents after hours. I mean, am I really? Is there really much to go off of here that I'm really looking at this? You have the gap fill here. All right, I'll give you the gap fill. You already hit it pretty much. So you're pretty much floating right above it. Let me go to the daily. I think I have to go out to the daily to really look at this. I mean, I do think it's a pump and dump. It's not something that I really want to look at, especially in this kind of environment that we're in this market. But if I'm looking for prior peaks, prior resistance levels to see, really what's been that level that you're watching for, I mean, I think you're overshooting right around this range. This is pretty much what you're looking for right now, which would put you right around close enough to about the $4 mark. I don't think you're really getting past the $4 mark per se. And then of course the other thing, if it does decide to go crazy, is you're watching the gap fill ultimately. But there's nothing here that says I want to buy this, especially not in this type of market environment, that I want to go buy a penny stock just for the hell of potential short squeeze, in which this is not really making enough of a move for me, in my opinion. A dollar move, we've seen penny stocks really go up about $2 and come right back down. So I'm not trusting it. I know Tom will probably be able to give you updates. He'll probably check the short interest by tomorrow morning, and we'll see what it is, what the cost to borrow is on it. But this thing to me right now, that looks dead. I will leave it as is. Someone mentioned Google. I'll take a look at Home Depot in just a second. I know I overlooked that one actually, real quick. I'll take a look at Google real quick, see what we're looking at. Google to me actually looked like it actually broke down from a rising wedge action. That's really more so what it looks like. And I probably look at this on a 4 hour, probably gives me a better image. Yeah, gives me a way better image. So if you see, we broke down from a rising wedge action. Probably want to say it's more of a wedge, more so than a rising wedge. Yeah, I would say this is more cleanly of a wedge. So if you had this nice little wedge, you had the breakdown, you had the nice little retest action, and now you're getting the flush. So you're pretty much watching, it looks like your next support level, major support level that you're watching is right around here. You're watching right around 27.33. That'll be your major support level that you're watching. To me, that's the major support level. You break under that, and it's likely going to get ugly, and you're going to go for wick fill down to the lows here of 26.63. So I know that it was trying to hold up pretty early in the morning. I was looking at that, and it literally just hit a rug pull, and it couldn't help itself. And I know that for the most part, when the markets usually bleed out as much as they have been, I know that folks don't small shit these days. Well, that's funny. You are right though, but I know that one thing that stood out to me also is that when the market's red, I think lately the two biggest tickers that have taken the most punishment has been Google and Shopify. Something to keep on the back of your mind. I think that's just something that stood out to me, and probably maybe something that helps most of you, especially when you see the market start to bleed. But those two tickers have really actually taken most of the heat for all the downfall. So that is something to keep on the back of your mind when you know if we see more acceleration to the downside tomorrow, something you want to keep in your mind. All right. But I do expect it to continue to the downside. 27.33 will be that level again. We'll see what she does there. But if we can't hold that level, we're likely going down to the wick fill, and that's not going to be pretty at all. All right. So that'll be what I would say about that one. You could get a nice little retest. If we get a nice little move to the upside here, you're potentially watching towards 28.20 if the market wants to get any kind of relief. I doubt it, but that'll be where I would target. 28.20 will be with our upside range if we do get some kind of nice little relief tomorrow, which I do highly doubt. All right, so that's Google. Watching Home Depot, and I think I was looking at this one. Yeah, I did look at this one. So if you actually see, this one actually had a nice little ascending triangle here on Home Depot. You see that off the 4 hour. I probably could look on the daily. Looks a little better. Yeah, I think it looks a little better on the daily. So you had the nice little breakdown. You had the retest. We're literally just, it was trying to sit at the resistance, and it literally just, market just tanked it. I was expecting for a bigger move to the downside. It just wasn't having it. But granted, the fact that the highs here were 394 in the morning, and it plunged down, it was about an $8 move to the downside from the highs. I understood it. So we'll be looking to see if we take out this level here right around 384. Once we get up under 384, then you do have this strong support, this base right here at 380, and then we're looking for gap fill right below 379. So some key levels there: 384, 382, and then gap fill below that 379. So those are three levels I'm watching on that. But you literally hit resistance. You trended along it as the market literally just pushed these past 3 days. As you see the three wicks, pretty much trying to hold up, trying to keep up with the rally, the short-term rally that we just recently had, and now we're gonna likely see this gap fill. So definitely one I like. The only thing is that I'm more so gauged towards tech, because this downfall is more so gauged towards tech. So if I'm really trying to play the downside, I prefer to go tech wise rather than towards Home Depot. But I like the technical setup right here. You had a picture perfect retest, and you do have a beautiful gap fill here below. All right. So that's one that I definitely like to the downside. And then I'll take a look at this last one here, Crocs, and we'll probably call it a night. Why did I have this here? Okay, it looks like that was a little bit of a micro little wedge action that I had going on. And why is this and white too? Let me change the colors. Probably because I had my back filter a little different colors. All right. So basically, what I'm looking at Crocs here is just a massive megaphone action. That's literally what you have right now. And so we ended up getting a nice little Tesla support back from the end of December here, about 2 days before Christmas. We had the bounce. I know at one point we had some bad news, and we had some nice little downfall here. This was actually from the 10th. I take that back. But I knew there was some kind of surrounding news, if I'm not mistaken. And then we ended up getting the bounce here within the past 2 days that we got the nice little rally, and market shut it down. So you're pretty much looking at support here. If we get under this 113 level, it's likely going to be pretty ugly. Now I do want to see, is there any gap fills below? Yeah, there's a fat gap right there. Ew, that is an ugly gap right there. So that's something that you're definitely flirting with. Let me see if there's any kind of support here that I find in between that I like. Yeah, you're pretty much sitting a nice little support level right on here. So you're gonna end up breaking that 113 level. Find a little bit of a support right around this mid 107 mark, around 107.48, and then once under that 107, you're likely going for the gap fill under 92. and that's not going to be pretty. But I think you'll end up finding a base right around this low end. Once you complete that gap fill, you'll find a nice little base. I think it'll be able to hold there, if the once the market tries to find its base. But I don't think all the acceleration in the overall market here. I don't expect you to go below the gap fill. Pretty much is my bigger message here. I think you'll be able to hold 84, and that'll be where you want to go long on Crocs. All right. But you definitely are going to likely end up breaking the support level with the volatility in the market. That's pretty much escalating to the downside. You'll break that 113 level, be right around that 107.48, and then you'll enter the gap fill, basically. All right. So that's what you're pretty much looking at because you already. Did you fill the gap to the upside? You breached it. You might get a bounce here, but I don't think that bounce is really going to take you to 140. So I wouldn't bank on that gap fill being completed to the upside. So I don't like the upside per se, but I give you your defined levels to the downside pretty much to look at. All right. Yeah, that's more so like a bearish engulfing. That's what you're pretty much looking at. It's not looking pretty. This megaphone action, it looks horrendous. I was gonna say it looks a little bit more like a head and shoulders, but that this right shoulder is not really so much more defined as I would like it. But you can make the case it does look a little bit like a head and shoulders action as well. All right. But other than that, I'll leave you guys with that here tonight. Let's hope to see what the market gives us tomorrow. Those of you that are pretty much holding, or I would say diamond holding positions, holding calls right now that are pretty much down a lot. Hopefully, you end up getting out tomorrow. I would hope that because I don't want to see anyone pretty much lose money especially. But this is more so a life lesson right now is that you want to be cautious. Don't try to get overconfident. I know that pretty much a lot of traders have been overconfident going into the new year here. You had that 5 day blood streak last week. You see pretty much more blood on the streets here today. There was literally the bounce today was literally non-existent. You barely saw a bounce intraday here today. It was literally non-existent. So that was one thing that told me that there's a lot more weakness to come is because there's just no bounce right now. It's literally just a bloodbath. So that's why I say try to keep your position size, especially for those of you that are a little bit more inexperienced with market volatility. Keep it down. Don't try to put too much at risk. Trying to go making back all your losses pretty much in one trade. And it is what it is. Let's see what the market gives us tomorrow. I'll see you guys pretty much on live tomorrow. And we'll be able to hopefully get some nice little scalpers tomorrow. Hopefully we also get some more alerts tomorrow off of the flow alerts page. And we'll be able to make some more money tomorrow. But other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. You guys have a good night. Have a great weekend. Likewise, Randy. You guys take care, all right?